Today, we are wading into a confrontation that just went instantly viral. It's grabbed headlines all across the country.
Oh, absolutely. And it seems to have exposed some really deep, troubling fissures in Nigeria's power structure.
It really has. I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't just a squabble over a piece of earth.
No.
This feels more like a public governance breakdown that, it asks a fundamental question. Who holds the ultimate power in Abuja? Is it the powerful politician with the bulldozers?
Or is it the uniformed officer who is simply obeying the military chain of command?
Exactly. It was an extraordinary moment of political drama,
Yeah.
and all played out on camera. You have one of the nation's most powerful political figures, FCT Minister Nyesome Wike.
Right, up against a detachment of Nigerian naval officers. And our sources, they give us the blow-by-blow of the clash itself. But I think more importantly, they provide the crucial context. This whole thing is deeply tied to a serious land dispute, and it's underpinned by some staggering allegations.
Allegations of what specifically?
Political cronyism, for one, and a very high-handed use of administrative power.
Our mission today is to move beyond just that viral footage. We need to analyze the incident, but also scrutinize these shocking claims about the disputed land.
And its powerful new beneficiaries.
Yes, and weigh the reactions coming from, the defense minister, top military brass, and even veterans. What are the critical implications here for you, the Nigerian public, when high-level civilian authority and the military clash so publicly?
It's a huge question.
So the incident itself, it just exploded into public view on November 13, 2025. We know FCT Minister Wike visited a property site in the Gadua district of Gudu, Abuja.
A site that was, according to reports, occupied and secured by the military. And this is not some kind of diplomatic inspection tour.
No, not at all. The sources say Wike arrived with, considerable and intimidating force.
Something like 50 armed police officers.
And 2 bulldozers, which, that clearly signals his intent. He was there to reclaim the property or maybe demolish whatever was on it.
And the confrontation that we all saw was with a naval officer, identified as Lieutenant Commander Urima. He was there securing the site.
And he insisted he was acting strictly on orders.
The video footage it's unforgettable. Wike is just arguing so heatedly, challenging the officer's authority.
The language he used was extremely harsh. Calling him a fool, telling him to keep quiet.
And then angrily saying, "You cannot shut me up, sir."
What's fascinating to me is how Wike immediately challenged the officer's chain of command.
Right. He actually mentions talking to the military bosses, saying something like, "If not for the defense staff who spoke to me, you could have killed everybody here."
He then demands the officer produce land documents, construction approvals, just relying completely on his own ministerial power.
But the officer's reaction, sources really praised it. Lieutenant Commander Urima remained incredibly steadfast, very disciplined.
He really stood his ground. He just replied, "I am not a fool, sir," and stated very clearly that he was acting on orders.
And that calm professionalism, in the face of this public verbal assault from such a powerful official, that became a huge flashpoint for public discussion.
It did. But beyond the drama, the real issue is that challenge to the chain of command, the use of authority. But for us to understand why a naval officer was there, protecting this property in the first place.
We have to look past the verbal fireworks.
Exactly. We have to see what Wike was actually trying to reclaim. The sheer aggression suggests the stakes here are monumental.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the heart of the land issue. This disputed property is a substantial piece of land. It's a 30 to 31 hectare parcel, plot 1946, in Gadua.
And crucially, the sources allege this land was originally designated for a specific public use. It was meant to be a park and recreation green area.
A green area, okay. But it had been allocated to someone else.
It had subsequently been allocated to a group of powerful serving and retired military personnel. The name that comes up is a former naval chief, Awal Gambo, who had apparently already started developing it.
Okay, here's where we need some clarity. Wike, as FCT minister, he has immense power. He's basically the governor of Abuja.
Right, and that power often comes through what's known as ministerial fiat.
Meaning he can just revoke and reallocate land. So wait, if the land was designated for park and recreation, doesn't Wike have a legitimate legal argument for revoking the allocation, regardless of who gets it?
That's a critical question, and it really hits that tension point between legality and due process.
Mm.
While the FCT minister absolutely has the power to revoke land use to maintain city planning, the sources allege that Wike revoked this specific allocation and then issued fresh rights of occupancy, or ROFOs, to new people.
And he changed its use.
Yes, converting the use to multipurpose. The key allegation here is that this was done, and I'm quoting, in total disregard of due process, official recommendations, and existing approvals. So it's not just what he did, is how he did it.
And the who matters immensely here, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the allegations seem to move from just an administrative misstep to political maneuvering.
Precisely. The sources claim this prime parcel of land was redistributed specifically to Wike's political allies.
Any names mentioned?
They name a top associate, reportedly the current INSC chairman, Professor Sam Amupatan, as one of the key beneficiaries.
Wow. Okay, so that immediately repositions the entire dispute. It's not just a bureaucratic land issue anymore. It's a highly political matter involving, alleged reward systems.
Exactly. And according to our information, the Army actually tried to handle this through legal channels.
They did.
Yes, they challenged Wike to take the ownership dispute to court, but he apparently declined. He preferred, bulldozers and confrontation instead.
That refusal is deeply telling, isn't it?
It is. And this whole tension, it highlights the conflict between the minister's preferred method administrative fiat, just deciding by decree, versus the rule of law, which requires a judicial process.
It suggests a lack of institutional patience, willingness to force issues through intimidation rather than, sticking to established legal boundaries.
Which takes us directly to the official government reaction, and specifically the very strong critique from the defense minister, Bello Madawal.
Right, and this is where the issue escalated from just a land fight to a constitutional one.
Madawal described the incident as truly unfortunate, but the most revealing detail, the thing that confirms how high-level this conflict was,
What was that?
was his statement that Wike had contacted both the Chief of Defense Staff, the CDS, and the Chief of Naval Staff, the CNS, the highest military authorities, before going to the site.
So Wike defied the advice of the two highest-ranking military officers in the entire country. That is a critical detail.
It shows a clear willingness to force the issue.
Absolutely.
And Madawal specifically criticized Wike for failing to exercise patience, noting he defied the advice and rushed to the site. The military command had just requested time to investigate, and Wike just ignored that.
And what did Madawal say about Lieutenant Commander Urema? Did he defend him?
Strongly. He stated unequivocally that the officer only carried out his duty worthy of commendation. The defense minister confirmed he committed no offense under military regulations.
Because he was just obeying a lawful order.
Simply obeying an order from his superiors, it was full institutional protection for the junior officer.
And then, this is where the analysis really deepens. The minister escalated the whole thing by linking it directly to the commander-in-chief.
He did. Madawal emphasized that government officials must respect the armed forces, and he said, quote, "Anyone who disrespects a soldier indirectly disrespects the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces."
That's a huge statement. That strategically repositions the entire conflict.
It does. It turns a bureaucratic land squabble into a direct challenge to the president's constitutional authority. It basically forces the executive branch to step in. It's an expert political move to protect the military's integrity.
And it also confirmed the military is now handling it officially, right?
Yes. The CNS has since visited the site to conduct a formal investigation into the land ownership documents. They're taking it very seriously.
The official backlash was strong, but the reaction from the military community outside of government was arguably even more forceful.
Indeed. A coalition of Nigerian military veterans, they issued this dramatic warning that just captured headlines.
What did they say?
They stated that if the officer were to face any punishment, they would physically occupy both the office and residence of the FCT minister in protest.
Wow.
Their rationale was simple. Uniformed officers serve the country and the Constitution, not the whims of individual politicians. A very powerful defense of institutional integrity.
And we also heard from Lieutenant General Tukura Buratai, the retired former Chief of Army Staff. He weighed in heavily.
Buratai called Wike's tone and his rebuke an act of profound indiscipline that strikes at the very foundation of our national security apparatus. He even called it a reckless endangerment of national order.
When you have high-ranking, decorated military leaders using that kind of language.
The incident is being viewed as a fundamental threat to institutional stability.
And the sources, they try to link this confrontation to a perceived pattern of Wike's behavior, don't they? They label it the vulgarity of power, not majesty of authority.
Yes, they do. They draw parallels to his time as governor. They recall allegations of him revoking land belonging to former President Goodluck Jonathan, for instance.
And that widely reported incident where he stopped EFCC officers from arresting a judge.
Exactly. These anecdotes are used to build a picture for the listener of a leader who has repeatedly shown a preference for using raw administrative power to override established legal and institutional protocols.
This high-stakes clash really leaves the public deeply divided. I mean, on one hand, you have widespread support for the naval officer's calm professionalism.
His adherence to duty, the defense of military integrity, all of that.
But on the other hand, there's legitimate criticism directed at the military itself.
There is. You have to ask, why is the military devoting resources, a commissioned officer, troops, to protecting what is essentially a private parcel of land for high-ranking officers?
It's a fair question. It raises a fundamental public interest issue about the appropriate use of military personnel outside of their core security operations.
It really does.
This is less like a landlord dispute and more like a high-stakes poker game where Wike is betting his administrative fiat against the entire military command structure.
That's the real gamble here. The incident exposes two critical takeaways for the listener.
Okay.
Firstly, the lack of institutional patience and the preference for confrontation over the rule of law at these high levels. That's evidenced by Wike defying the advice of the CDS and CNS.
And the second?
Secondly, it throws a huge spotlight on the controversial practice of allocating these large, valuable tracts of state land in the capital to politically connected individuals and military elites.
A fascinating and, frankly, a deeply troubling development that cuts right to the heart of governance in Abuja.
It does.
We've seen the clear defiance of advice from military chiefs, the direct insult hurled at a commissioned officer, and these shocking allegations regarding the disputed land and its powerful beneficiaries.
The focus often gets stuck on the shouting match, because it was so dramatic.
Yeah.
But the enduring issue here is the allegation of high-handed land revocation and redistribution without due process, all to potentially benefit political allies. That challenge to the rule of law is the real destabilizer of public confidence.
Indeed. So, given the defense minister's strong stance that disrespecting the uniform disrespects the commander-in-chief and the military veteran's threat of occupying Wike's office and residence, what are the immediate and long-term consequences for that delicate balance of power between elected civilian authority and the powerful military institution in Nigeria?
A very fragile balance.
That's the question you, the listener, need to mull over as this unprecedented investigation unfolds.